William Harper gazed out the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Chicago office, the city's skyline a jagged silhouette against the fading autumn light. At 54, with threads of silver weaving through his dark hair and a 17-year-old daughter who teased him relentlessly about his outdated phone, he had convinced himself that love was a chapter long closed in his life. Yet there he stood, heart stuttering, as he watched 36-year-old Claire Thompson tilt her head back in laughter at a colleague's joke in the bullpen below. The sound, muffled through the glass, still reached him like a warm breeze cutting through winter's chill. He had built Harper Innovations from a modest startup in the wake of his wife's passing, when their daughter Abigail was barely 5. For nearly 2 decades, his days had been a relentless cycle of strategy sessions, parent-teacher conferences, and solitary evenings where the echo of an empty house amplified his solitude. Romance? It wasn't even a footnote in his meticulously planned existence. "Dad, you need to live a little," Abigail would prod, her voice laced with that mix of adolescent sarcasm and quiet worry. "You're 54, not fossilized." He'd deflect with a grin, steering the conversation elsewhere. What was the use? He had an empire to maintain, a daughter on the cusp of university, burdens that left no room for frivolity. Who would choose a driven widower with more responsibilities than free hours? Then Claire Thompson entered his world during her interview, portfolio clutched tightly, her posture radiating quiet resolve. "I understand my experience isn't conventional for a senior executive assistant," she said, her tone even despite the subtle fidget of her fingers against the leather binder. "But dedication? That's something I bring in spades." There was an undeniable spark in her, a blend of quiet strength and sharp insight that made him set aside her resume mid-scan. Claire had devoted the past 12 years to caring for her ailing parents and younger sister after a family tragedy, sidelining her own ambitions. Now, at 36, with her sister independent and her parents gone, she was rebuilding from scratch. "You've been the architect of your family's stability," William observed, the words slipping out unbidden. "That's worth more than any boardroom credential." Her responding smile lit something deep within him, a flicker he hadn't felt in years, warm like sunlight piercing storm clouds. Claire integrated seamlessly, transforming his disorganized calendar into a masterpiece of efficiency, foreseeing issues before they escalated and coaxing genuine chuckles from him, feats his team deemed miraculous. She packed nourishing salads when she saw him forego lunch, dotted his monitor with uplifting affirmations on neon notes, and stayed late without a murmur of protest. "She's a good influence," Abigail remarked one rainy afternoon when Claire had swung by their lakeside condo with urgent contracts. "You don't snap as much anymore." "I don't snap," William countered, though he couldn't suppress a smile at his daughter's arched brow. The shift crystallized at the firm's yearly foundation gala. William loathed the obligatory schmoozing and forced elegance, but when Claire materialized at his side in a sleek emerald gown that accentuated the depth of her eyes, the evening transformed. "You look sharp, Mr. Harper," she teased, her lips curving playfully. "William," he amended, softly. "And you're stunning." The compliment hung unfinished, eloquence deserting him, a man who commanded negotiations with ironclad poise. They swayed to a single ballad that night, her palm fitting perfectly in his larger one, her proximity making his pulse thunder like a distant storm. Her breath caught as she murmured, "They're all watching." "Let them watch," he replied, his voice rougher than intended, the words a bold declaration that surprised even him. Later, on the terrace with the wind carrying the scent of Lake Michigan, Claire opened up about her deferred aspirations, the unfinished masters in social work, the wanderlust for distant shores, the sacrifices she'd made without a trace of bitterness. "You're extraordinary," he said, the truth of it settling heavy in the air. She chuckled softly, the sound mingling with the city's hum. I'm just me, William, handling what life threw my way. Nothing about you is just, he insisted, the implication lingering like unspoken thunder. The following day, he summoned his HR lead and arranged for Claire's reassignment. He couldn't pursue this, couldn't jeopardize his equilibrium, the company's image, or exploit the inherent disparity in their roles. She merited more than a burdened executive twice her age in emotional mileage. When he broke the news, her expression shuttered into neutral professionalism, a mask he knew too well from his own arsenal. "Understood," she said, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of pain, sharp as a paper cut. "The reason? You're indispensable," he offered, the partial honesty tasting like ash. "I'm advancing you to lead our emerging philanthropy arm. It aligns perfectly with your strengths." It was factual. She'd excel. But the evasion stung them both. In the ensuing weeks, they navigated the office like ships passing in fog, courteous, detached, and inwardly shattered. William drowned in spreadsheets and mergers. Claire poured her energy into sculpting her division from the ground up. Their interactions were crisp, but the undercurrent of loss weighed like lead. "You're being foolish," Abigail declared over a quiet dinner, her fork paused midair. "And I mean that with all due filial affection." William glanced up from the merger proposal he'd been feigning interest in. "Claire, you're head over heels and shoving her aside because you think you're ancient, or it's unseemly, or some other nonsense you've concocted. It's not that simple, Abigail. Physics is complex. This? Straightforward. You're isolated. She lights you up, and you're torpedoing it out of fear." Her insight gnawed at him, a persistent ache. Was fear the root, undoubtedly, of dismissal, of scandal, of upending his structured world? But deeper still, terror of craving a shared tomorrow with Claire, lazy brunches, heated debates, tender make-ups, a companion to weather the years. Meanwhile, Claire flourished, her initiatives drawing acclaim and endearing her to colleagues. Sir William observed from afar, a tangle of admiration and remorse knotting his chest like vines. Then the rival firm's offer arrived, a role with amplified pay and freedom. She delivered her notice personally, spine straight though her hands quivered faintly. "It's time for a change," she stated, voice steady. The ground seemed to vanish beneath him, cold dread flooding like icy rain. "Is this because of what almost was?" "There was no almost, William. That's the issue." He rose, closing the distance. "What if there could be now?" She shook her head, tears glistening like dew on lashes. "You chose distance." "I was mistaken," he confessed, the admission ripping free like thorns from flesh. "The years between us, the judgments, how desperately I rely on you. It all frightened me." "Reliance isn't affection," she breathed, her voice a fragile thread. "No, but affection is there too. Overwhelmingly so. It petrifies me." The quiet enveloped them, pregnant with potential, thick as fog. "I'm 54, he ventured at last. "You're 36. I've got silver streaks, bifocals, a near-adult daughter. Tongues will wag." "Let them wag," she echoed his gala retort, a tentative smile breaking through. "I'm rusty at this. Intimacy, vulnerability. I'll falter." "Me too." She stepped nearer, her scent of vanilla and lavender wrapping around him. "But don't we both deserve some joy?" Their initial kiss was hesitant, a query met with affirmation, lips brushing soft as silk. The next sealed a vow, deeper, fervent. Challenges arose, sidelong glances, murmured speculations. Abigail oscillated between delight and embarrassment. "No PDA around my crew, Dad, please." Boardroom murmurs about appearances were met with his terse rebuttal. "My private affairs aren't agenda items." Yet joys abounded. Mornings tangled in sheets with steaming mugs, assisting Abigail with essays, discovering hidden gems in Chicago's neighborhoods. Claire resumed her studies, William her steadfast study partner, flashcards in hand. He expanded his culinary repertoire beyond basics, finding solace in gallery strolls where her insights painted the canvases anew. For Claire's 37th birthday, he led her to the terrace overlooking the lake, the city's lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. "I have another gift," he said, pulse quickening despite rehearsals. "You already spoiled me with the necklace," she noted, fingering the amethyst pendant that mirrored her gaze. "This is special." He drew a steadying breath. "After Elizabeth passed, I assumed love was a singular gift. One profound connection seemed enough." He lowered to one knee, ignoring the twinge in his joint and her soft inhale. "I'm still your senior by years, still buried in work. I can't fathom my fortune that you return my feelings. But if you'll accept me, I'll devote our time to mirroring the bliss you've brought me." The band was understated, timeless as her spirit. Her yes rang clear, unwavering as their bond. 9 months later, at a family brunch in their blended home, William watched Claire and Abigail conspire over pancake recipes, laughter filling the air like music. Whispers had faded, replaced by acceptance. Initiatives thrived under Claire's guidance, and Abigail's college departure loomed with promise rather than dread. Love, he mused, arrives not on schedule, but precisely when the soul is ready to embrace it fully, a gentle dawn after endless night.